Spencer's trying to convince us to turn this into an ASMR review to boost the to boost to boost views. There you go. I'm almost tempted.
Perry Mason was amazing.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. This is Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Spencer, and I don't think we're gonna do ASMR for this, but who knows? The we're trying to get 100 subs before September, so I think
That's
we've
a good
got
way to do it.
11. Honestly, it would boost. It's insane how many views those channels get. Like it's crazy. But that's not what we do here. So, another good episode.
It's not what we do yet.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, like I said, we're trying to get to 100 subs before September. So if you're not subbed, please sub, especially if you're enjoying these Perry Mason reviews. We do movie reviews every Friday. We're going to have I know what the theme is for August. I'm not saying it yet. We're going to...
God damn it. I still don't know.
He doesn't know, but I do, and we'll be discussing that next week. So look forward to that. August will have a theme. So yeah, let's jump into the Perry Mason stuff. First, would like to thank, let's see here, Marty Bowles, who commented last week and had some interesting things to say about Alice. And it turns out you're correct with some things because you were discussing how the financial scams wrapped around the church. Alice is somewhat, just sort of being power hungry. All those things were on display this week. And also would like to say thank you to the Richard Cheney, who has commented on past videos. You discussed how Ian Lithgow, who is John Lithgow's son, was in fact playing EB's son in last week's episode, which we were questioning, curious
Well, we're
about.
debating, and I looked up all the things on like IMDb and stuff, and I didn't go much further past that, but I couldn't find it. So I'm glad that somebody was able to confirm it one way or the other.
This week, one of the best lines I thought between Perry Mason and Drake was something along the lines of, "It's not legal, but it's something I can live with." And when I heard that line, I was like, that summarizes the show, I think. It's not legal, but it's something I can live with. Because, we're constantly dealing with questions of morality and what's right, what's wrong, playing by the rules, not playing by the rules. Perry Mason truly believes Emily Dodson is innocent, as we, the audience, have been shown. Although I don't know anymore. I was like, well, wouldn't that be a hell of a twist if she wasn't?
Well, I think that regardless of whether she is or not, several other people in this episode have showed that there's a lot more hands and a lot more people at play than we originally thought. I think I'm not saying that she doesn't have a hand in it, but good Lord, you talk about dirty, the DA, and it's on full display about how unprepared Perry was to be able to combat the DA, the judge, all the other, hands that are in this, Enos, Holcomb, like all of them. Good Lord.
Yeah. I think, I hope she's innocent. I would be a little irritated if that was the twist at the end, that she wasn't. I mean, we learn more and more about her, and definitely there's shady things about the character, but it doesn't mean she's, guilty of murder and should be executed. I go into what you were saying about Perry Mason being unprepared, sort of. We this episode, over the span of it, we got to see him learning the ropes. He's never argued a case like this before. And so he literally is learning on the job.
Well, I think, too, that, and I text you this, I'm really curious as to what's up with the judge. Throughout this episode, the judge was clearly playing favorites. And even in previous episodes where him and, EB was talking to him, but the DA, he kept seeming to take the DA's side. I'm not entirely sure why yet. I hope they show us. Uh, I hope he's not just, a coward or corrupt. I hope that there's another deeper reason, although there doesn't have to be. But I am curious to see what his deal is, because no matter what the DA said, he was like sustained. He just
Yeah.
kept, overriding everything. So it wasn't so much that he was unprepared, because he knew what he was going to say. He knew how he was going to phrase it and everything. He kind of froze there the first opening statements, but after that, he was, Perry was on point with everything, but he kept getting shot down, and the judge kept taking the DA side. And shortly after that, it wasn't too much longer after that, when he submitted the evidence, he was like, "Well, I sent it over to Frank, who was his friend."
Yeah.
Withholding evidence, and that was a pretty um, key turn of events. I mean, it could be all bullshit, but they showed us that it wasn't. The hotel guy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know yet, but I think the judge represents um, playing by the law. In other words, even if he knows for sure that she's innocent, it doesn't matter unless it can be proven through the system. In other words, an innocent person can hang depending on how it's a flawed way of looking at things, but there are those who have that belief in the system as it is, and if you're unable to do it by the rules, then tough shit.
I would agree with that, except for the evidence. Even when Perry was arguing, "Hey, I didn't get to look at any of this stuff," and he basically was like, "All right, from here on out, you can't withhold anything, but I'll allow this one." And then no matter what Perry did, when he was talking about, it was almost a tit for tat. He was saying, "Hey, I got this evidence," which he didn't, but with the dentures, he was like, "I
Mm-hmm.
got this evidence that was submitted by the DA," and he's like, "Yeah, well, I'm not missing that. That's, I'm not letting that come forth. That's inadmissible in court." And he was like, "What?" So
Because
he's not allowing Perry to do anything, and almost like physically, not physically, I guess I don't want to say legally, because he's in charge, but he is definitely leaning one direction. So
he's playing to the DA, and I think that could also be because I still, based on a couple of scenes, I don't think that the prosecution is dirty. No, okay, let me rephrase that. They're dirty, but I don't think that they know that Innes did it. Like, I don't think the DA knows. I don't think the judge knows. I think they know something's fishy, but they don't really care. It's all about winning the case.
I
Uh,
don't disagree with that.
they, I don't think they're in on it. They just sort of don't give a shit. And it comes down to, and especially if he has aspirations for, political office, the judge may, want to be on his good side, and that could be part of it.
That is true too, because he has made it. They've said it several times, even at the pretty much jump of this season, that the DA was gonna run for political office. So I don't know at that time frame how elected officials were truly elected, or if it was good old boy system. But it's once you get higher up, Supreme Court and everything else, those are appointed positions. So I don't know whether or not he's just trying to make friends to maybe move up along with him, or if he's drop my phone in my face. But I didn't fall downstairs this time.
Yeah.
But but I'm not sure if he's just playing to him to suck up, or if he's got an ulterior motive, or if the DA has something on him. I don't know yet.
I like how Della was observing the jury, and based on their mannerisms, how they were acting, she was eliminating the ones that were that they had. So, she could be like, oh, juror number whatever is going to vote, guilty. Like she was already able to sort of determine which jurors were doing what. And I you think about that. Yeah, that's probably done in the regular, even today in the court system. I can imagine, focusing on the jurors and, trying to build an idea of who is on your side and who's not.
To me, once again, that shows how intelligent the people working on Perry Mason's staff are, whether it's Pete, Paul, even Della. They are all highly intelligent, and her being able to be that good at reading people, that's one of those skills that you don't learn in school or something like that. You're just able to, read people. Also, we were talking about the sub characters. Pete, super smart, able to kind of put some of the pieces together. One of my favorite scenes, and we were talking about this before. Pete, for me, is one of my favorite sub characters. He's super funny. But when he was leaving Perry's house and just said bye to gloves, like,
Yeah.
now I can't think of her as anybody else. I don't know what her real name is.
Hazel.
That's what it was. I
Yeah,
couldn't remember.
they've
I was
only
like,
said it
shit.
once. Yeah, I wrote it down. Yes, Hazel is. So yeah, Perry Mason basically has set up shop at his farm, and that's his office. And Hazel, which is I guess Della's friend, very close friend. Which I wish they would go a little more into that. Um, Outside of a few kissing scenes that we don't really know what that relationship is. But she works there now. She's answering the phone.
Well, it seems as though she's taken over Della's old role,
Yes.
as whereas Della's taken on a lot more responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. She's more the secretary or whatever, and like you said, Della's almost an assistant to the lawyer. Um, we have another meeting between Mason and Alice, Perry Mason and Alice, which was interesting, and the subject of being ashamed of something came up. We had the surprise witness who laid out in detail an encounter between Emily and Gannon. I believe is it Gannon?
Yeah, George.
And in which they rented two hotel rooms, one in which to put the baby in, and the other to hook up in. And
I
he
couldn't
lays
stop
out,
laughing. I was like, that is the most ridiculous shit.
though he lays it all out, and it looks, it's just uncomfortable, and it just looks bad to the jury, and it infuriates Perry Mason because he didn't know about it and he had no way to prepare a counter, you know, line of questioning. So he flips out on Emily, and then Alice confronts him about it, and they have a nice little moment. And she starts talking about being ashamed. Have you ever been ashamed of something? And we get a little glimpse in the preview for next week of a flashback. It appears a flashback for Alice. That's what it looked like. I don't know if that's what it is, but I think we're gonna hopefully next week get a little more backstory on Alice as far as what she was before uh, the
Well,
current church.
I like that they focused a lot of, you know, screen time on her this week, because even with the courtroom stuff and all the character development with, Officer Drake and everyone else, for this to seemingly be revolving around the church. Now, we don't know 100% what it is yet, or Baggerly, but the church is a centerpiece of this whole uh, investigation. So for them
Yes,
to
definitely.
spend a little bit of time focusing on Alice, I think is highly important. They showed even, that scene shortly after that when she was talking to her mom, showing in, like you said, one of the comments about how power hungry she's becoming. Regardless of whether she believes in what she's saying or not, a lot of what she's doing is about power. It has nothing to do with believing in God or believing what she's saying is true. It's about, she feels uh, entitled to that church. She feels entitled to congregation. Like, she's earned it, and she doesn't want to
I
travel
believe she
anymore.
says it's her church.
Yeah.
She's like, this is mine. The going to that scene, her mother is well aware that Alice has lost her damn mind in terms of resurrecting Charlie. And she is packed away, which I would assume is large sums of money in those suitcases. It didn't show it, but I can guess. And she's like, we got to get the hell out of here. And Alice is not having it. She's just not backing down. She's like, no, I'm staying. And she even said, even if she's fails at the resurrection, like she even mentioned that, this may not go the way she wants it to. It doesn't matter. I'm staying. And I think we're going to get an answer to that next week, because it appeared that it's going to be Easter, because that's when this event's supposed to take place, and she was trying to get permission to be able to dig up Charlie. I don't know what the hell is going to happen with that scene.
Well, and they even showed the preview for next week where Emily was, all right, I'm not even worried, because there can't be, and they said it in this episode also,
Yeah.
there can't be a case of Charlie's alive. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, I don't know where that's going.
Yeah, I don't either. And it's, for Alice to be that obsessed with it and that hell bent on it, I'm really curious to see if she's just crazy or if there's an ulterior motive. Like, we were talking about it throughout the end of this episode. They start uncovering some of the pieces of what parts of the church are responsible for a lot of this land and stuff that's being sold. I'm curious if her and Baggerly are in things together to try and, expand their church, or even get, more, the congregation even larger. Because we've talked about it before in super churches and everything else. They're already at the beginnings of a super church. They're, doing 3 services a day. And they also talked about how they, what was his name? Eric Seidel, I think was the name. The guy with the glasses.
Yeah.
The guy who was running it. He was talking about how a lot of their money doesn't come from their congregation. It comes from investments. So I'm curious to see if Alice is just the church part of this, or if she's part of the investments too.
Yeah, there's definitely a real estate component to this story. We were introduced to the idea several episodes ago with Baggerly wanting to build a city or whatever. So how that all plays in, not completely sure yet, but it's definitely a part of the story. Appears to be the biggest piece of the story. We had Officer Drake, he was on the stand. Mason decided not to expose the truth, and Drake, played his part as he was told to. And the thing that broke him was when he was handed the bribe, the money, the payoff, whatever you want to call it. And it hurt him. He came to Perry Mason and basically just told him, I can't do this. I've got to just take the risk and say to hell with it and do the right thing. And so he ends up sending his wife away because he knows, shit's about to get real. It could cost him his life. And, he wants to protect her. So building that relationship with Perry Mason, and as we know with the original series, Drake is the lead investigator.
Well, I think
Perry Mason's team in building that.
Well, I think it was important to the longevity of the show. Although, Drake was saying, hey, I really wish you would have pushed my hand. I really wish you would have basically just made me so that I would be able to live with myself. But by him not doing it, now he has a loyal person who's like, man, this dude kept his word and everything. I will do anything to help him. There's also, he was talking about living in that fear. I couldn't imagine like living in that time frame. And he even said it, where I can't even arrest a white murderer
Yeah.
because I am beneath them. And I'm like, damn, because, throughout this season, I've been, he's not doing the right thing. He's not doing this, but all the while I've been empathetic, being like, he doesn't have much of a choice. And he even said it too. If it was just him, he would have already stood up. He's worried about his wife, his unborn child. So he's not trying to think just for himself, but he's finally gotten to the point where he feels so much guilt that he's willing to overcome that fear to, do the right thing. But I don't,
And they set
that's
it up
hard.
with Pete, because Pete makes the reference a little earlier that, well, he's just a cop. He's dirty, he's a cop, whatever. And so to show that you're right, no, Drake he wants justice, he wants to do the right thing, and he's tired of the system. He's tired of every aspect of it, of the dirty cops, of the racism, of the fact that he's not looked at as an equal. And he's had enough, and this was the breaking point for him, to where he is willing now to put his life on the line for his, what he believes.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know how you cannot look at that in a positive light. Someone who's willing to give up everything to do the right thing.
It makes me, the relationships being built, and that's one thing I've been loving about this, between, with Della, with Drake, even, Pete, um, Hazel now, all these characters. We only have 2 episodes left. They're going to wrap this case up one way or another in the next couple episodes. Um, I'm wanting more and more now for there to be another season. Jump ahead 3, 4, 5 years. Get to 36, 30, 1937, somewhere around there, and pick up where is Perry Mason and his team at that time. I hope they do that, actually, and this was an episode that made me think more about that. Just the way we're getting these characters, they're connecting, and it's like, oh, I want to see them as one, well-oiled machine.
I would like to see them do almost like a True Detective thing where each season is one big case instead of it being like a procedural
Mm-hmm.
type thing where each episode is one case and they just kind of work through it. I would like to see, and like you said, like a jump. A couple years from now, hey, this is the real big case that they're working on now, and the struggles that they're having with that, and then they can reference old cases that they've worked on or whatever. It To me, I would really like to see them do it similarly to something like True Detective, which, regardless of the backlash of some of those, I liked all 3 seasons. But
Ennis, the dirtiest of the cops, is confronted. The DA's already questioning him. He knows there's something up, but his partner comes to him and basically is like, "What the hell were you involved in?" And he basically comes clean. He's like, "Yeah, I did all that shit." So instead of being, the good guy, his partner's like, "Well, we got to cover it up. Who knows? We're going to kill them." So it just shows you the level of corruption. And Enos even points out, he's like, "I didn't start becoming corrupt on my own. You guys introduced me to that world, and I just, took it, further, took a deal, took a job."
well, I think that they said that too. I don't know that Holcomb would have tried to get him to murder more people and cover it up more if he hadn't put him on the spot, being like, "I wasn't the lead on this, you were." I was like, "Damn."
Mhm. Yeah, well, it showed that, they're all were dirty, and it was just no, they didn't know that he was involved in this, but it didn't really matter in the end. They were, he was going to cover it, help him cover it anyways. Um, let's see here. The prison guard completely lied. The first part of what she said was true, but the pillow part, she just made that shit up. Um, is she bought? I'm assuming, or is she being threatened over her?
Well, I don't know that. You look at like the public outrage, and they talked about her being an adulteress and a baby killer. I think the public, regardless of whether that the matron saw or heard anything, she was her outlook on her is probably the same as a lot of the public. But remember when Enos and Holcomb weren't in there, I don't know that the DA was buying her and trying to get her to say that story, or if one of the detectives were, who basically paid her to sit in the other room while Enos and Holcomb beat the shit out of Emily. I don't know who's who she's taking money from, but clearly she's full of shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't sure, what the whole story was. Was she just simply paid off, or does she believe Emily is guilty and she's just helping, even if it involves lying, push the case along? Uh, who knows? But we've throughout the whole series, even what we were just talking about with Ennis and his partner, uh, there's a level of corruption that runs deep, and so she's just simply part of that problem, you know. And then, like you said, we're digging into the church and the money, and we end the episode with Perry Mason following up on a lead, and it brings him to a Jim Hicks, and he's confronted with a firearm at the door, but then basically told, "I was expecting you," or "I was waiting for you," something along those lines, leading us to believe that this is that big reveal. We're about to find out some shit that we've been waiting for. How does the church tie into this? What is this financial slash real estate situation? What the hell happened with Charlie? I think this is supposedly going to answer a lot of those questions, or begin to, at least.
Yeah. Even when Pete was at I'm not sure what office that was, where he was looking into the different deeds and everything, and about the Pinkertons and who paid them. But that's when he learned about the Eric Seidel guy, and he saw, the picture of the guy who's running the church, and I think that the information he was able to get Perry is going to be that next big reveal, and I think they're going to start putting hopefully some of the bigger puzzle pieces together so that we're not waiting until the last episode.
Yeah.
Although, I'm sure they will, at least a little bit.
That's roughly the episode. Before we wrap this up, sorry if this is going up later than you're used to, and if I'm a little off my game tonight. My computer was updating. It took three hours, so we didn't start this until much later than we typically do, and it sort of it threw me a little. I was very, very frustrated. I didn't know if we were even going to get this up tonight, so there you go. Apparently, Windows decided to drop a huge update. Hopefully, you've already updated yours. If you haven't, it's going to take a while. Yeah, it's going to take a while. It literally took 3 hours. So there is that. Also, like what I was saying earlier, we're trying to hit that 100 subs before September 1. That's a goal we've set, and hopefully we can achieve it. We start doing our ASMR videos. Yeah, we have a review next Friday. I've narrowed it down to 3 movies. They're all decent. They're all decent. So except for one of them. One of them's stupid, but I don't know which one we'll choose. And as I said, August will be themed, and we'll announce that theme next week. So let me see. Anything else in regards to Perry Mason?
The only scene which I referenced just a second ago was the Pete and that older lady with the Pinkerton stuff, and him talking about how he's like, "Let me buy you a drink." And like I said before, Pete was stealing so many of the scenes, and that one included. I was dying laughing when she was like, "Oh, that's close to penis." He's like, "I never looked at it that way." Like
Yeah, I thought that
every
scene was going to keep going, and I,
oh, so did I.
I was like, "Oh, okay, what's up?" Um,
But yeah, I just every scene he's in, and I hope he survives. I hope him and Paul are the two like investigator guys, and
yeah, I was thinking that myself because I don't think Pete's in the old show. Let me check.
yeah, which would mean that he may be digging a little bit too far, and he may end up dying, or he may end up being like a sub character who comes in and out. But I hope he stays. He's my favorite person on the show.
Because yeah, Pete is. I mean, I'm looking it up right now. I don't. I think he's only on the Perry Mason show on the HBO one. Because I was thinking because I had done a little research and found out, yeah, that Drake was the detective. He was the main one of the, next to Perry Mason. He was like the main character, and so knowing that, yeah, it's like, oh.
Well, I'm looking on IMDb at all the old characters, and he's not one of them.
Yeah, so the fact that yeah, it may not be good news for him. Who knows? Uh, yeah, shit. So yeah, hopefully, if he does go out, it's in a blaze of glory.
Taking some bitches down with him.
hmm Him and Enos have a big sword fight, but
They like they drive their cars 20 miles an hour at each other.
but all right, yeah, we'll see y'all next week. Thanks for watching or listening, I should say, and yeah, thanks.
Bye.
Bye. So we ended the show, but we're back because as we were, Spencer was doing a little research. We were talking. We just discovered that Perry Mason got picked up for a second season.
And that's good news.
That's really good news. So everything we talked about earlier, hoping that we get a second season, now we have confirmation that that is in fact happening. So cool. What do you? I wonder if they'll do what I said. Oh, do you think it would be best to pick up right after this, or a time jump? What do you think would be a better?
Well, I think if they jump to like 1980 and they 90 years old or whatever.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But I don't think that they should have to pick up right afterwards because Perry's already, seemingly getting more and more comfortable. Even as the trial goes on day by day, he's getting better. So I don't think that we need to see the growth of Perry anymore. I think we just need to focus on another big case. So if they did like a small time jump where he's building his own name and people are coming to him with the hard cases, I think that would be far more interesting than picking up right after where they left off.
Yeah, I think a handful of years, couple of years. You don't want to get. I mean, you're getting World War II is not far off, so that would affect the storytelling depending on as far as the draft and who would have to leave and how that would all play out. I don't know, but yeah, I think it's what 32, 33.
I think they said this is 33.
So if maybe 35, 36, something like that. And like you said, each season focus on a case, on a very specific case. Would you want them to do an original story or go look at some of the early books, maybe pull some of those stories and they could play with it, but there is a lot of source material, not the original series, but literally the original books.
Well, I think that using the books would be a great, not only just source material, but a structure. How this has gone has been more of because I didn't watch the old show, but for it to run as many seasons as it did to me, it made me feel like it was probably more of a procedural drama, or like a Law and Order, where each episode's a different case and they're working on whatever. uh, I imagine the books, you can't write a book like a procedural drama. So I imagine that each of those books were more like he was working on one case. So I think them picking one or two of the books, and then, maybe tying in a couple extra things, or, uh, you know, using it as source material, but not necessarily going from it 100% to kind of keep that mystery there. I think that would be a good uh, way for them to go.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, but that's exciting. I'm actually very happy about that. Like I said, I really enjoyed the relationships they're building, and in my mind, was thinking in this episode particularly that yes, you're building this team, and I can't wait to see them, fully and as a working team. So now I know we're going to get that. So cool. Thanks, HBO. um, so yeah, we'll see y'all next week. All right. You'll hear
Bye
us next
again.
week. Yeah. Bye.